a second. I'm going to start painting soon. All right. Sorry, I just had to post that to Twitter. Hopefully some people will join us tonight. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for watching. This is just going to be a Spidey remark on a Spidey print. The prints are available in my print shop, shop.paularevere.com. And let's see, what are we using tonight? It's going to be a Remarque on print, Pentel pocket brush pen, acrylic gouache, and I'll use a couple different brushes. So let's get set up. I've already done my drawing. I've been doing drawings lately on parchment paper and then flipping them and scrubbing them on. Actually, I messed up the other day because I used a different pencil. Well, I used the same pencil, but I used a new lead, and it did not transfer at all. So it's just going to go down here at the bottom, kind of like in the least interesting area. I did want to kind of leave one spot on the print for just this kind of stuff. But having it on the paper allows me to position it a little bit better, decide where things go. I don't know if I'll have room for the spider, but yeah, I may not have room for the spider. Spider on his chest, of course. All right, once that's there, I'm going to use this, the bone folder, and kind of let's make sure it doesn't move much. Get my finger under there, and basically just transfer it to the print. Yep, that's good enough. You know, it doesn't have to be super great. I just need to have a rough idea of what it looks like since the drawing's done. You know, and again, this is going to be a long process, guys, so feel free to dip in, dip out, check out later. Part of the reason I had to do this is because, well, these are long overdue. These guys have been waiting for about 4 months. And then the other reason is because YouTube reminded me that I haven't posted anything in 6 months. And in order to be eligible for their YouTube partner program, you have to keep the channel active. They were nice and polite about it, but still, it is something I want to do. I often go to Instagram just because it's a little bit easier, but I actually like YouTube better because it's, well, for one, it's horizontal format, which I just prefer. It just looks better, and it's, you know, part of a collection of videos that people can peruse online anytime and not have to go through the Instagram app. Okay, it's getting there. Yeah, I started doing this last year where I transfer the drawings instead of trying to draw directly on the print, and it's made my life a lot easier. Like, the extra time that it takes to draw something twice is just far easier than trying to get it right the first time on dark print. Much easier to draw just on white paper, as you might guess. learning some shocking news here tonight. Alright, let's see. It's transferred pretty well. You guys can see that, right? Good, good. Just gotta make sure I get everything in there. Nostrils, nose, corners of his mouth. You know, you have to be careful because the drawing on this side is not the same as the drawing on this side. The drawing on this side is the detailed one, so I do a real quick sketch here, and then I flip it over, I trace it, and kind of make sure everything's correct. And it helps, you know, flipping a drawing is something that I do anyway all the time, as do most artists. So, you know, nothing but good things all around. All right, missing anything? Maybe that line. Not there, good. All right, I think we're good. Keep a magnet there. Those of you who don't know, I draw on a metal board because it's a lot easier. And there, that's what the actual drawing looks like. All right, I've already got my palette ready to go. This is backing paper from my shipping labels, and it's on top of just a little sponge. And it works pretty well. This is like my quick and dirty palette. I have a much more involved one if I'm doing like a big painting, but this is just nice because it keeps it fairly wet. It doesn't work perfectly, like it won't keep it for days. I still have to spray it every once in a while. Whereas my other palette, you know, it keeps everything, all the paint fresh for, you know, as long as you keep it wet. So, let me grab my water bottle. Make sure I got plenty of water. All right, I think I'm going to start with a little bit of burnt umber, just so I can get all the shadows and details right. Now this is going to be a comic book style, not fully painted. Actually, you know what? Let me double check that. Yep, comic animated comics. Because the few times a year that I do accept remarks, I have I don't know if it's a fully painted option. What is it? Yeah, I guess it's the cinematic version. Yeah, so I charge extra for that. So it's like you can get the MCU Captain America, but it costs a lot more because guess what? He takes a lot longer to draw. You know, and then you got to get a likeness right and all that kind of stuff. Well, you know what? I'm going to grab my drawing here so I can keep that as reference. And I will pin this up as well so people can remember if they get curious. Got to use my better magnets. There we go. All right. Good. I think I need to get it even darker. I might have to get black. Well, no, I'll save that for the end. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm not looking the whole time, but a occasionally I do glance over at the screen. I've got it going on my computer. Otherwise, I'll just kind of keep talking. Now, as usual for these remarks, I just do a real simple light from the top left. I don't really need to paint this, but part of the issue is I don't want to lose the drawing when I start blocking in all the color. So I want to make sure. Oh, there goes my son. Poor little bud. I thought he was asleep. Maybe he'll go back down. I don't know. You never know with the boy. The customer asked specifically for Spidey with his mask up and smiling. So this is kind of a nice change of pace. All right, I'm going to switch brushes to still a golden natural, but I'm going to use a round instead. If I can find it. Oh, I almost forgot. Got a margarita. I don't always drink and draw, but I usually make it a point if it's a Friday night. It's acrylic gouache, more acrylic or gouache. It is acrylic paint, but the gouache part means that it dries to a matte finish. So that's why the distinction. So technically it is acrylic paint. You know, when you're working on a dark surface, you kind of have to do everything twice, so, or 3 or 4 times. I just don't, there's certain landmarks that I don't want to lose, like the corners of his mouth, the nostril, all the important stuff. All right, I think that's good enough. I can wing it for the rest. Okay, right? Is that good? I just have to make sure that I like the drawing, because you don't want to get into the paint and then realize that there's something you don't like about it. All right, now I'm going to switch back to the filbert. And start laying in some color. Now, I was mentioning this the other day on Instagram with the Wolverine remark I did. you know, this is high quality paper for the prints, but it's also not as thick as the paper that I usually use. So that means that when I put it down, I try and keep it fairly thin. You know what? That's not going to cut it right there. I think we're going to have to do white first. Yep. Oh, buddy. I might have to cut this short, guys. My 3.5-year-old is not having a good night. But we'll see. We'll see how he behaves. I should just tell him that he can come down here and watch. Yeah, this is the way to do it. So basically you gotta, again, paint everything twice. You gotta put down a layer of white, and then that way when you get to the red, it will be at its full potential. You know, I could put down super thick red and have it look the way it's supposed to, but there's a risk that it will buckle the paper. And since this is a print, I don't want that to happen. So I'm trying to keep things fairly dry. And I'm not really worried about losing the webbing. Like it's going to happen. The important stuff I've already got down. And well, I have some confidence that I'll be able to redraw the webbing. Oh yeah, wet to dry is very tough. Oh, no problem. Thanks for watching. Yeah, gouache, that's kind of why some people don't like working with it. Now, you know, I use Holbein paint, like they're the ones whose brand is Acryla, and I like it. And they do boast that there's very little shift between the wet color and the dry color, but I still think it's a pretty big shift. But you know, it's just the way things are. It's just the physics of it. There's just not much you can do about it. Yeah, and that goes for both acrylic gouache and regular gouache. They're both like that. But the thing is, so when I'm painting, like an actual painting, not a Remarque, I'm painting on white, and that is much more predictable because I'm working transparently. And when you're working transparently, it's a kind of it's like almost not the same medium. The color shift is not that great, and the power of the shading, the tinting, all that stuff is more dependent on just the amount of paint that's there and not really the thickness. There's a big change between pigments. You know, some pigments are very, very strong and have a lot of tinting power, and others just don't. You know, when I was doing the Wolverine the other day, I was mentioning that yellow ochre, it has its own very distinctive texture, and it's not a particularly great texture, but it's okay because you don't usually need that much of it. It's almost always part of a larger mixture of paint. And so, you know, that actual like baseline texture of yellow ochre is not something you ever have to deal with because it's always just part of something else. But that being said, sometimes it is kind of annoying right out of the tube. You know, and some pigments are just like that because you know they're made with real materials and things don't always work the way you want them to. So now I'm going to take a little bit of titanium white and a little bit of burnt umber, mix them together. That's basically how I make a Caucasian flesh tone. If I were doing miles, I'd use a little bit more burnt umber. It just kind of depends. Yeah, a darker skin can actually be a lot more interesting color-wise because you're having more effects from light. It's not just all form and shadow, it's also a lot of reflection. And that's actually when things kind of get interesting, and it can also be tough to control. Like with light skin, you just kind of have, at least for comic stuff, I just kind of have my, the light tone and then the shadow tone, and just kind of a little bit of a transition. That's it. If anyone's dropping in right now, things are looking pretty crazy. It's like, can this guy paint? Are we sure? I swear. I swear. What's the question? Oh, yeah, not for something like this. Like I've done, obviously this is an original piece, but I've done so many things similar to it. Like I kind of know, I know where my shadows go. I know what the basic. I always joke that all light comes from the top left, and it's just something I'm familiar with. I'm used to doing. But yeah, if this were, well, for instance, what this is being painted on, I had a full-on color study, lots of reference. I think I had a 3D model, I had a toy, I had actual photography, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, there's kind of a big difference between a finished painting, so to speak, and this. I guess it's so funny, like all the different terms. I call it a remarque. Which, that's fine. That works. But it's actually pretty rare that I paint like this, where I'm putting down opaque. This is how I painted in art school, where you're like putting down the lights. I almost always do darks first because I'm painting on a light background. All right, I think that's going to be. Oh, and this is so this is going to be flush as well. I always, when doing Spidey, especially with the mask up, you kind of have to decide where the neck ends. And so if you'll watch, like, the few times I've done it, I actually have, like, the collar comes up onto his neck, and so that's why I did it like this here. But if you watch, like, the movies with Tobey Maguire, he actually has, like, a couple different suits depending on whether or not he's, like, if he's wearing the costume underneath his clothes, then it's like a scalloped neck. Because you don't want people to see it. But that's not how it's portrayed, in other scenes, like when he's wearing the suit and then he takes his mask off. That's, totally different suit. So there's all, when you're drawing Spidey, there's all kinds of, like, little things like that you have to decide that, like, literally no one else thinks about. You've got a lot of leeway in the comics, but even with the movies, like, you can do something like that, and most people are just not gonna catch it. It's not what they're paying attention to, and I'm fine with that. The guy's bitten by a radioactive spider. I think I can hold my disbelief. Oh boy, you can get me talking about AI. Uh, well, I'm not going to say much, but I am preparing a statement, and the statement will be a piece of art. And I just have to I have to find the time to do it. I did start it already, but I got to finish, well, for instance, I got to finish this because these kind people have been waiting for 4 months, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of before I start doing like more optional things. But if I'm able to do that, I had planned on doing a painting that will kind of be my response to all of it. And you know what? I'm not going to remember the guy's name. I watched a YouTube video on it that was going around. I think his last name is Zapata. My first name might be James. But he had, a well-researched and very well-articulated sort of argument. And the thing is, it wasn't even against AI, because he was quick to say that, as working professionals, we love technology. Like, we can barely get it. Like, I always want something new, something fresh, some kind of new tool that'll make me better. And then, well, AI doesn't make you better. That's kind of the problem. It really will kind of dumb things down across the board. Because, when you're learning to draw, it's like anybody can hold a pencil. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding what you see. And even though everybody can see, most people, they don't have the ability without some, it's not even special training, it's just practice to make you realize that what you think you see is not what's really there. And that's basically all you do at art school for 4 years is just bang your head against the wall until you finally realize that your brain is something you're not necessarily in control of, and kind of has its own way of interpreting things. And that's just for visual stuff. Like, I don't even want to get into other crap. So yeah, without going too much into it, I've definitely seen a lot of mean-spirited stuff online, and it's kind of sad. Put it this way, I'm not worried about losing my job because I haven't quite yet seen it do what I do. And I'm not really going to go into detail what that is, but just trust me. Basically, you can't yet tell it. You can't talk to it like you're an art director. Like it seems that way, but it's not. It's kind of the illusion of it. I'm not saying it will never happen. It definitely will. Like I don't hold any illusions as far as like our monopoly on thought. But what it will do is it's going to take away a lot of the entry-level jobs, and I've already seen this happen, that budding artists, cut their teeth on. And that is, it's not a tragedy. The world is filled with real tragedies, but as someone who benefited from those types of jobs, where you're young, you don't really know what you're doing, but you are still able to get a sense of what it's like to work as an artist, and also how to work with the people who hire you, which is a skill unto itself. And there's a certain level of editorial illustration that I don't see it coming back. I really don't. And that is, it's kind of sad. painting's not going away, but the way you get there, it is gonna be harder, and I do feel kind of bad for people who are starting out now, because it is painting and drawing and art in general. It's already demoralizing enough, because if you're any good, you probably don't think you're any good. it's that weird thing, and so it's not going to help those people. But there's also, there are also people out there who may not have, and I do believe in a certain amount of talent, but at the same time, I know it's a skill, because it is something that I got better at, and I got better at it by practicing. But why was I practicing? It's because I wasn't so demoralized that I wouldn't try. And people always do it for fun, but when it comes to a career, it's going to be real tough. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. So obviously, I said I wasn't going to say anything, and then I said a lot. But yeah, the plan is I gotta gonna do a piece of art and an essay using some very concrete examples about what it is that, what they did right and what they did wrong. And that's kind of what the Zapata video essay is so good about, is he really dug down into, something I had just kind of thought about, but hadn't researched or given any thought to, any deep thought, and that was about music, and man, he nailed it, and was able to basically use Stable Diffusion's own words against them. They play dumb and they play coy, but they know what they're doing, and their lawyers know what they're doing. I think I'm going to do one more pass of white to get the head looking just right. Still looks a little funny to me, so in order to improve that, I'm going to have another sip of margarita. It's a little watered down right now. But I don't care. Oh, what kind of paper? This is just a print. It's I don't know. It's 100% cotton. These were produced by Gray Matter Art. I think they're still in New York. That's where I met them. But this was. I'm not going to pull that down, but maybe I can pull out another one. This was the cover to Amazing Spider-Man number 15, and then we turned it into a print last year. When I did it was actually for Marvel licensing. So when I painted it, this part right here is an actual painting in gouache, but the background is completely white, and then the background that you see here is done digitally, because they wanted something where they could take it and remove the figure completely. In fact, I don't know if I have. They sent me a book where was the cover, and now I don't know where it is. Otherwise, I'd give you. Nope. Sorry, I got a lot of books. In case you guys were wondering where I went. Yep, I'm not seeing it. All right, I'll give up. So I'm going to put a little bit more acrylic gouache. And again, acrylic gouache, it's acrylic paint, but it dries matte. That's why they call it gouache. For my real painted work, you know, I typically work on Strathmore 500 series illustration board. And I've got, you know, there are other YouTube videos I posted that show me working directly on that. I am working on another YouTube tutorial where, did you guys see Batman '89 by Sam Hamm and Joe Quinones? I actually talked to Joe today. But he penciled a cover and then I painted it. That was a lot of fun. You know, we've done that a couple times. Joe and I, you know, we went to school together at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design. And actually, this year is our 20-year reunion, which is amazing and terrifying. But Joe and I, you know, been friends for 20 years, and well, we've been nerds for 20 years. We met because we were both carrying lightsabers. It never gets old. And we went and we proceeded to have a lightsaber fight in the quad. It was great. That's how you find your people. Absolute nerds were everywhere. Because I do, like, I never forget, you know, I feel pretty secure in my career, you know, I've been doing it for 20 years, but I never forget kind of just how ridiculous, and also what a, I mean, this was like shooting for the stars. You know, I'm from originally, and it was always my dream job. So I get it. Like, this didn't have to happen. And there was a time where none of this was guaranteed. Let's put some red in. I don't know what red this is. I usually have like 3 reds. I'll have alizarin crimson, and then something a little warmer, and then something real warm. I do this trick whenever I have anything that's glowing bright red, where I actually use orange to make it super bright. And it looks, well, I think it looks great in a painting, especially in the original. But I just turned in a cover yesterday starring none other than Cyclops. And I made his optic blast just a little bit too orange, and so they had me change it. But I only changed it digitally. I did not change it on the original because it's still an effect that I very much prefer. Because, you know, the reason I do that is because your brightest red is darker than your brightest orange. And so I will often use orange to just lighten things up a little bit without losing any of that saturation. Because, you know, I mean, superheroes, so, like, gotta have a really strong red in there if you got the chance. So you guys see how, like, easy it is now? Like, once you put on that white base coat, everything is just much easier. So, you know, what you're seeing, it's It's both the red as kind of like a semi-transparent layer, and it's also the white, shining through beneath it. So it's almost like a glaze, but it's semi-opaque, and that's actually how I paint a lot of the time. I put down only as much as I need, and I save the truly opaque passes, usually for like bright white stuff, and that's it. Or if like there's something that I really want to stick out, like an optic blast, I'll put in some acrylic gouache and really thicken it up. Same for Wolverine's claws, or Spidey's webbing. Sometimes I'll make that almost impasto. Sorry, when I said that, I automatically thought of Andre 3000. Not going to repeat what he says before that, but. All right, so that goes in pretty quick. And then, you know what? I think I'm going to use a little bit of alizarin crimson to get kind of a colder red in there. Pardon me for just a second. And, I use very little paint. Like, these are the tubes that it comes in. This is literally the same tube, I think, that I bought in 2007. Like, I'm almost out. It's very powerful pigment. Give my paints a little spray. Take another sip of margarita. Apologies if you guys are hearing me gulp it down. But that's the price of admission, folks. I actually I'm not a big fan of the acrylic gouache alizarin crimson, because it's almost more like hot violet strawberry, which is the old airbrush color that we used to sell. My parents had a mail-order airbrush supply company. That's like kind of where I grew up. My dad was an airbrusher, and so that color does not look like alizarin crimson. All right, so now I'm starting to do a little bit of like shadow and form, since I have my darker red. I'm mixing the alizarin with a little bit of burnt umber. I might throw in some sepia in there. I don't know. I don't want to gray it out too much, so I still want, my dark, I want it to still be red. But again, I'm thinking of the light, it's coming from this direction. Top left, like all good lights. I'm trying to decide how exactly the mask comes up. Because, you know, you want it to look kind of like it's bunching. Give it just a little bit of thickness so it looks like a semi-real mask. So get a little bit of shadow under the ear. And a little bit of shadow as the form turns away. You know, that's how to make something look like it's round. Just take that edge and just push it back just a tad. One tad. All right, and then for the front, that's when I'll actually switch brushes. Now this would all be a lot easier in gouache on white. I'd be using different brushes and it would be happening a lot faster, but this is, you know, it's good practice. So I'm going to switch to this sable cat's tongue, but it ends up, once you use it for a long time, it ends up looking like a filbert. It's a natural hair. You know, natural hair is good for transparent stuff. All right, so I'm going to mix a slightly darker red, ever so slightly, and then this will kind of define the forehead plane. So you know, I won't quite call it a gradient, more of like a plane change. And then this brush allows me to kind of almost scumble it in. Scumbling, always underrated. Yeah. And if you let it dry out, you can actually almost do kind of a dry brush technique. You see that? And you can start to use some of the texture of the paper to kind of create almost like a dot pattern. You know, not actually a dot pattern, but the same principle where you have just like a variation of color. All right, so that's pretty well defined. I'm going to blend this a little bit better. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh, my heat's going on. Hold on, I'll be right back. We get too loud. All right, I got my exercise. Sorry, when my other heater kicks on down here, the air handler is just so loud that you can't even hear yourself think. All right, so here I'm going to define the traps a little bit. Trapezius. And then some of the neck. That's going to come down. I'm going to hasten things up a little bit. I don't want this to go on for too long. I'm going to go ahead and, ooh, I know. So I'm going to go ahead and define the good? Yeah. A few artists using gouache as a main medium. Any thoughts making a class? You know, there's actually plenty of stuff online for gouache. Like if you just search YouTube, there's just tons of stuff out there. Um, you know, I've been approached about doing classes, and I do like teaching. You know, I like doing this. I like teaching well enough, but there's so much other stuff that I want to do that like I see myself teaching eventually, but not yet. There's just like I'm still in a period of my life where there's just not enough hours in the day to get everything done that I want, and especially lately, like to this year, there's a lot of very specific projects like the AI thing that I really just want to get. I am putting together my perspective template, which you know, part of the impetus was it's been 10 years or more, and I've just been talking about it and I've never done it. And then the other thing was Gumroad, where that's where I sell my digital templates and files. They're upping their take to like 10%, which I find a little ridiculous. But they're not kicking off until February, I think. But I may not end up going with them anyway. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, so I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, that's perspective template, and it's almost kind of like teaching. Like I won't be teaching perspective, but I'll be teaching. Like all I've been doing this month is writing, you know, an instruction manual basically, and like it won't. It's definitely not going to teach you how to do perspective. It expects you to already know, but there are a lot of kind of working techniques that, you know, I find indispensable at this point in my career, and you know, and have been for 10, 15 years now. Because the way it works now, I use smart objects. Like it's nothing new. Like I've seen other people do it, but I do have a specific technique and template that you know, I think works pretty well. And so I've been wanting to share it for a long time. The only thing that's been holding back is that I know it'll take a long time to kind of, you know, write the book, do the videos, and it has to be a video because you have to see it in action in order for you to be like, oh, that's how it works. Because you know, if you know perspective, you already know, like, you know, it's pretty simple. Actually, I shouldn't say that. There's some pretty crazy perspective techniques out there, but like what I've done is I've kind of boiled it down to what matters, because the thing is, and you'll see this with almost any perspective tutorial, like people teaching you, they know their stuff. They are perspective experts, and they know more than I do. But they are not comic book artists, and we have special needs, damn it. And so, you know, I am never going to set up the station point, and I'm never going to draw the arc of fails, and I'm never going to decide what my 60-degree field of view looks like. I'm just going to do a sketch because what's important to me is what is in the composition and what's visible and what's not. And so it always starts with a sketch. And so my perspective template, it's about already having an idea of what you want and just tightening it up, just making sure everything is the way it should be, and you know, and how to break the rules if you need to. And you know, I break the rules all the time. You know, because there's lots of stuff that matters, and there's even more that doesn't. So yeah, no classes. I had like 2 offers last year to do like a formal thing, and you know, from like they weren't colleges, but they were well respected online deals, and I don't have the time. I just didn't want to commit. Plus, I'm waiting for my kids to get a little bit older. Because, man, they are super whiny. They're normal. They're great kids. But if you've ever had a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, like, it's an interesting dynamic where, like, the 7-year-old is completely and totally capable of taking care of herself and surviving on her own, probably for days and weeks. But if you're there and the 3-year-old is there, all of a sudden she can't tie her shoes or bathe herself or do any of the stuff. So I swear my kids are competent. Oh, thanks. 15 years. Wow. Yeah. That means we're both old. At least you didn't say I've been watching you since I was a kid. But if you are, don't say it. Thanks, Patrick. Oh, it's Nick again. Nick, are you following me? If you don't know Nick's work, definitely check it out. Nick Darrington. What is it? Most tutorial classes. Yeah. I mean, most of the gouache. Well, also, like, honestly, I've said this before. Don't paint comics. I love teaching people how to paint, how to use gouache, but the next thing out of my mouth is don't paint comics. There's like 5 people who can do it, and I am not one of them. I can make it happen, but it's going to be 10 years. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, in case you didn't see, this is the Pentel Pocket Brush pen. It's great. They don't pay me to say this, but they did send me some because they saw that I was using it, and I know the guy Chris, who's another illustrator, and I think he has some kind of deal with them where, like, he gets lots of these and passes them out. So it's a great little thing. What I was just showing you now is the cartridge. I just used the regular ink that's in there. I only figured out this year that the reason some people hate it and I don't is because I work, at an angle like this, and so when the pen is hitting the paper, it's actually pointed up, towards the sky by about 30 degrees. Yeah, so if you've never tried it, it's a great pen, brush pen, I should say. So yeah, now I'm just kind of inking on top, and I'll probably do the webbing in pen. I used to be real fancy, do everything by brush because I was trying to prove something to myself, and now I don't care. But you can do it all by brush if you choose. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to put I'll decide later after this part's done. I'll decide if I'll put the spider symbol in there. Did I see another question? Modern Masters book for Christmas. Oh, nice. Got the Modern Masters book. Thank you. Oh, and Noble Indigo uses the Pentel brush too. Yeah, it's great. It's a great brush. Anytime I used to like mention it, people would say, I don't like it. It lets out too much ink too quickly. And it was just this year that I figured out kind of why, because I was inking at my daughter's soccer practice, and so I was like hunched over on a bench working on a flat drawing, and I was like, oh, this is why people are complaining about it. and it was just a little faster than I was used to. I could still get it done, but there were certain techniques that were difficult. Sorry guys, I need more margarita. We're gonna wrap things up pretty soon here. I'll do the webbing, maybe the nose and the mouth, and then you know, I'll still do it. I'll still have at least 30 minutes in it, but it's all just like taking care of little nasty bits here and there. The same thing with the Wolverine I did the other day. Or was that yesterday? Oh, you like that it gives a lot of ink? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is like it can do, you know, for a cartridge brush, it can actually do quite a bit. You know, when I want it to dry out, I just drag it on a paper towel, and that works great. You know, I did when I first started inking in 2008. I did use a brush. I used the Winsor Newton. And I used the big one, you know, number 6. That's the Series 7. And I do miss it. I still have it, and I'll use it occasionally. But it's just like once you use this, and you just see how easy it is. There's no going back. I'm gonna let the shadow do the heavy lifting there. I want to let some of the print show through. That's the thing. Now I'll also tone down the teeth. I'll use a gray and get a little bit of shadow in there, and then I'll probably darken this eye as well and give it a slight blue tint. You know, barely perceptible, just like a cool gray, basically, not really blue. Because that always makes it look good. Oops. I did not screw that back in. Whoopsie. I don't know if I'm going to do this line. I might leave that just for the paint to work itself out. Define that a little bit more. Shadow under the eye. Good. All right. Let's do the webbing, and then I think we'll call it a night. Okay. I appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, you know, part of it was just I had to post something so that YouTube, I can remain in their good graces. And then partly I need to finish this. So, killing a lot of birds with just one stone. And like this little reflection, I'll go in with some lighter gray, make that opaque. I'll clean up the face. I don't really like some of the shadows there, but there's a certain part of every painting that it's even more boring than this part, and so I usually don't record that part because it's literally watching paint dry, and you guys have seen enough. All right, let's see. Yeah, any last questions, let me know. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. What do we got? Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for watching, Harold. Any chance might be on YouTube in the future? Yeah, I mean, I like doing it. I've got three or four more. Now my son's crying again. I have three more of these to do, so probably in the next few weeks at least. It'll either be here or on Instagram, one or the other. I might alternate. But yeah, you know, whenever I do it, I try and make sure that it gets posted. All right. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out my blog. I just updated it. Like it looks completely new, but it's all the same old stuff. It's paularvera.com, and then you can catch prints like this at shop.paularvera.com. You know, if you go to paularvera.com, it's got all the links and everything where you need to go. The templates I will hopefully have. I wanted to do end of January, but it's probably not going to be until end of February. There's just not enough time. But other than that, you can check out. I've still got plenty of these copies. These are the Modern Masters. These are available in my shop, and they come with a sketch of Spidey or Daredevil. Your choice. It's $20, and that price includes the sketch plus shipping, which is $4.16 for the United States. More expensive everywhere else. But you know, it's a nice book. I might actually do another book this year, but we'll see. I don't know if it's going to work. All right, thanks so much for watching, guys. Everybody have a nice, healthy, happy, safe weekend. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. So please enjoy yourselves, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.